This is the Guns Magazine podcast, episode number 92. Hi there, and welcome to the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. Thanks for joining us as we talk to the interesting people who make up the world of shooting, hunting, and the firearms industry. First, before we get started, let's talk about our great sponsors. 1791 Gunleather is the presenting sponsor of the Guns Magazine podcast, and they'd like you to know their appreciation for the Second Amendment fuels their passion for gun leather and its representation of the original patriots of this great nation. 100% Certified American Steerhide joins 4 generations of professional leather artisans to create the perfect firearms holster. Carry your firearm with pride knowing that each 1791 Gunleather holster is handcrafted to be the best holster for your firearm. See their full product lineup at 1791gunleather.com. The supporting sponsor of the Guns Magazine podcast is Hodgdon Powder. Available in granular powder and pellets, Hodgdon's family of 777 powders gives muzzleloading enthusiasts a quick cleaning, low odor, black powder substitute for rifle and pistol applications. To learn more, visit hodgdon.com. Well, today we're having a revisit. A few weeks ago, podcast episode number 87 offered an Olympic preview with our own video editor, Shari LeGate, who served as the color commentator of shooting sports for NBC's coverage of the Olympics. Now that Shari's back home, we thought it might be fun to hear the inside scoop from her perspective inside the broadcast booth. Now here's my talk with Shari LeGate. Well, Shari, are you excited to be back home, sleeping in your own bed after being in the la-la land of big-time television?
Yes, I am. I was working overnights, as you know, because Japan is 13 hours ahead of New York. And so when you go to work at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and then you come home at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you go to bed at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you do that for 2 weeks, your body clock gets all messed up. And then when you get home into the real world, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking at my husband going, so, hey, want to go do something?
No doubt. Well, you know, that was a good point that I talked to you one point during the Olympic Games, and you said, I got to get out of here. I got to get back to the real world, go back to where people are maybe normal.
Oh, yeah, so true, so true. Now, I live in a tiny town, Hodgdon. Gun site's 5 miles away from me.
You're a Pauldanista.
I am a Pauldanista. You know, we have a small little ranch here. My neighbors are down to earth. This is America. Everybody's got a flag in their front yard. We have 2 restaurants. One actually has cloth napkins, but it closes up. The sidewalks roll up at 8 o'clock. So this is real America, and that's what I'm used to. And that's how I like to live. And boy, how you get back east, it's a whole other world.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that if, aliens have landed here and they landed on the East Coast and went, yeah, no, let's keep going.
That's a good way to put it. Well, you have spent the last 2 weeks providing the color commentary, as they say, for the NBC network coverage of the Olympic shooting sports. And we're going to talk about the Olympic Games that everybody saw and you commented on. And the Americans did pretty darn good.
They did. The USA shooting team did outstanding this Olympics. And the last couple of Olympics, it's been a little bit of a struggle for them. But this year, they performed handedly, and I was very proud of them. But just to put things in perspective, because I know it's NBC, and I've already gotten some emails and comments from people going, oh, NBC is anti-gun, NBC hates us. Okay, I'm going to reiterate this again. I have not once experienced one negative comment, one bad feeling from anybody at NBC. Now, keep in mind, I'm working, with the producers and, the people in the trenches. Now, what the big powers to be are, I don't know. All I know is that down in the trenches, I did not experience any of that. And I can tell you that they were very good in covering every single shooting sport. They did not say okay, we're not going to cover it because it's shooting. If there was an American in it, it aired. Sometimes when there wasn't an American in it, it aired. So they did cover it. But to put things in perspective, Brent, I really wanted to say this. For this Olympics, okay, there were 339 events, 41 sports, and 11,000 athletes. So that's a huge, huge number. And NBC covered that. They had over 7,000 hours of coverage so far. That's huge on all 4 of their networks, on multiple platforms and in multiple locations. So, I just want to give a shout out to that because they worked very, very hard to bring these Olympics to people.
I've got to ask a technical question that maybe wouldn't interest anybody except me, but how do they control all of that? Is there one central control room? I know you had your own control room that handled all the shooting sports stuff, but with all the different sports going on simultaneously, how do they make sense of all that happening?
Well, there's one for NBC. There's one major control room, and there's this one guy who keeps control. He keeps tabs on everything. There's also another person in Tokyo, and they're talking back and forth, and everybody's working together, saying, "Okay, we have an American here, or they're making a run here, or we got a great story over here."
Wow!
And they are constantly jumping around. I mean, we have the amount of people that they use, and it's several thousand that they have that are working on this, and we all have our own little duties, but you still jump in there if something else needs to be done, and you see that. And I think it's because it's the Olympics, and these people really, really do have a passion for the Olympics and for sports, and I think that's I think that's really, really important. We've made sports history this year with the Olympics because of COVID and everything. They had to put in all kinds of different protocols, and it was difficult to work. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, it really was.
The job of a color commentator is to talk about the stories behind what's going on, and of the countless stories at the Olympics, just on the shooting side of things. So if you had to pick one moment, one particular story of the whole thing, is there one that sticks out in your mind?
For shooting? Yeah. It was when Vinnie Hancock won his 3rd gold medal, because he made history by doing that. And he is a great guy. And you can even see that now. It's so exciting because NBC actually uses a clip of him when he won, and then he holds his gun up over his head, and they actually show that in one of their commercials.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it was momentous because he ran. Okay, I got to give you a little history here, a little bit of background. The qualifiers are 125 targets, okay? And then they go into a shoot-off. The top 6 people go into a shoot-off from that. Vinny was straight, 100 targets, hadn't missed. He was leading all the way until his last round. And I think he just got tight. He started thinking about it. He wanted to be sure, and he missed 3 targets in his last round, which put him into a shoot-off to get into the final. So that was just really, really exciting. And then he's like in 5th, 6th place in the final, and then he had to shoot his way past all those people to get into the gold medal, to win the gold medal. And it was just incredible to watch him perform.
Wow.
So I think that was my Olympic moment, I guess, is what you could say. Now, having said that, I got to tell you this other stat. I'm so proud of this too. Overall, the United States has won 91 medals so far, okay, to date. But we have, okay, by sport count, not by medal count, but by sport count within the United States, okay, within the American medals, because we have won 91 medals. Total, gold, silver, bronze. 30 medals have gone to swimming. That's the number 1 medal winner. The next one is shooting with 6 medals. And third, and I put them in 3rd place, and I'll tell you in a minute, is gymnastics at 6 medals. And the reason I put shooting ahead of gymnastics was because shooting has 3 golds and gymnastics only has 2 golds. Yes. So they performed great. They really did.
We are still a nation of shooters.
Yeah, we are. And I know I monitored Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all social media platforms while all this was going on. And, a lot of people said, I'm not watching it. I'm not doing this. Well, the Olympics, why? And there was a lot of bad vibes going on.
We actually got that here when we posted some of your scheduling. We got some backlash from folks. I'm not going to watch those. It's like, it's shooting. You understand? It's shooting.
Exactly. Let's watch. You support the shooters. Let's watch shooting. You don't want to watch soccer. I get it. You don't want to watch the hammer thrower. I get it. I really do. But watch shooting. At least support that. And, in our sport, no one took a knee. No one raised their hand in protest. No one turned their back on the flag. They were truly Americans. And we as shooters should be very, very proud of the type of athletes that we have in our midst.
Exactly. And we talked about this in episode number 87, where we had you on our Olympic preview. And you made a really good point as a former competitor and a U.S. team member yourself. If you're worried about all this other stuff and making statements, you're not worried about winning. And you got to be focused 110% on winning when you get to that level.
Exactly. If you've gone to the Olympic Games because you want to make a statement or you want to do this, you're not there for the right reason. You're there to win. You're there to compete. And I think that's what happened, particularly to our soccer team, which has had quite frankly, a dismal performance this Olympics.
Yeah. They're too busy talking about everything else but soccer.
Yeah. They're too busy taking a knee.
Yeah.
In protest. And you know what? This is not the forum to do that. The Olympics bring the world together. The Olympics put politics aside. They put opinions aside. This is about sport, and it's performing to the best of your ability. And when you bypass that to talk about your own personal quest in life, that's extremely selfish. Yeah. And you should be quite ashamed of yourself for doing that.
Here.
I'm done lecturing. I'm sorry. That's a real sore point with me.
No, and I think that was one of those things we wanted to hit here, because you're absolutely right that, I just find it hard to believe that these people who have been given so much, I mean, you make a lot of sacrifices as an athlete. You can attest to that, but you're also given many wonderful gifts, and I don't mean monetary, just a lot of opportunity and experiences. And then to say, I hate this country that gave me all this, that is just the height of being spoiled to me.
Oh, it's disgusting. It really is. And, you saw that, what was it, the wrestler? Mm-hmm. That female wrestler, and she was just in tears, and she had her flag wrapped around her, and she said, I'm just so freaking proud to be an American, to live in this country. And I'm like, that's what the Olympics is right there.
Yep. Exactly. So okay, we'll move along. I think everybody pretty much knows how we feel, and I would venture to say most of our listeners feel the exact same way. We don't have to agree on politics, but you at least got to support your country, especially in front of other countries. So moving along from that, okay, I know you aren't a big fan of air rifle. How did that go?
Oh, you're funny. You are so funny. Well, the first medal given away at the Olympics is women's air rifle. So we always show that. All right. And we didn't win a medal. We did have a person in the final, but unfortunately she finished sixth. Good shooter. So, but then the next event is men's air rifle, and we weren't scheduled to do men's air rifle. We were just, I don't know why, it wasn't on the schedule. So I went back to the hotel. I'm like, okay, because this is the very start of the games, and I'm still trying to get my body clock moved around, and, that kind of thing. So I'm sleeping, and it's like almost 2 a.m, and my hotel phone rings. I guess my cell phone rang as well, but I didn't hear it. The hotel phone rang. And I just kind of rolled over, and I'm like, hello. Because, I was in a coma sleeping. Yeah. That's how deep sleep I was, because I was exhausted. And there was this panicked voice on the other end of the phone going, Shari, you got to get up. You got to get up. You got to get in right now. Get in here. You got to get on that bus. You got to get down there. We're calling men's air rifle. We have an American in it. And I'm like, hello?
What?
And I'm like, I don't mean to be rude, but who is this? And it was the producer, and she's like, "It's Lauren, it's me. Come on, you got to get up. You got to get up. You got to come in this." And I'm like, okay. And I roll out of bed, and I literally, no makeup on, pillow hair. I threw a hat on, got dressed, stumbling out of my hotel room down the hallway, and my phone rings, and it was the producer again going, "Okay, don't get on the bus," because they had a shuttle that ran every half hour, going back and forth to the studio to the hotel. Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Don't get on the bus. Don't get on the shuttle. Don't get on the bus. We're going to send a car." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm because you just can't. I can usually hit the ground running, but not at 2 a.m.
You're right.
And so I walk out of the hotel, and they're there, and the car literally takes the corner on 2 wheels and pulls into the hotel. And I go, and they're like, they're open the door, "Get in!" And so I'm in. I get in, and they're driving back, and they're apologizing. She's apologizing, saying, "I'm so sorry about this, but we have an American in the final, and we want to air this. You got to get down." And I'm like, "What sport?" And they're like, "It's men's air rifle." And I'm like, "Who's the guy?" And so then my phone rings, and it was another producer, and I'm like, "I need bios on these," because there's 8 people in that final. And I'm like, "I need bios on these people. I need to know who's in the final, and can I have some coffee?" And so anyway, I get there, they throw me out and go park the car, and I'm walking up, and the interns there going, "Come on, Sherry, you got to go," and literally. And they drag me there, and they put me into the booth, and I'm getting my mic on and all that stuff. And I'm like, "Can I have some coffee?
Pretty please."
And, yeah, that's all I wanted was coffee. And I said, "And some paper. I need to write things down." So Wow. They got me all this. Oh, yeah, it was crazy. They got me all this stuff. And I didn't have my normal play-by-play guy because he did not answer the phone.
Yeah.
And so they gave me a girl, Krista Blank, who I wound up working with on a couple of events. Great play-by-play person. Anyway, we wound up calling the event, and we won. Americans took the gold medal. So I was
cool.
glad. And we aired that live. They aired it live, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, I must have sounded horrible," because there I am. I'm trying to get information and make myself sound intelligent. Anyway, so when I walked out of my booth, the voice booth, the one of the big guys, was standing there from NBC, the Olympics, and he just was standing there with this little smirk on his face, looking at me, and I'm looking back at him, and I'm going, "Hey," and he's like, "Good call."
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a tough one. Yeah.
So do you think that was, what do you think was the most exciting moment? Just one of the winners you pointed out, or what was the moment that really got your blood boiling?
Well, that was one of them. But I think, I'm trying to think what, because after that they did tell me, they said, "Okay, we're now going to air. We want you here for every shooting event. We're going to call every shooting event, whether there's an American in it or not."
Oh my!
And I think that for me was probably, a yes moment. That was like, "Oh yes, all right,"
Very
and
cool.
they did all the way down to women's sport pistol. Shotgun performed superbly, and I'm a shotgun shooter, so I'm a little prejudiced, but still, they did. And I'll be honest, and USA Shooting knows this. We need some work in pistol. Mm-hmm. It's not a strong event for us. We didn't have any Americans in it, but they still called it. We still called it, and they still aired it.
Wow! So
that, I think, was exciting for me that we got to do that. But I think, again, it goes back to the Americans in shotgun as doing that great performance that they did.
Well, I'll ask a question, and you may not remember who medaled in the pistol categories, but America is a country of shooters and a whole lot of pistol owners. Why do you think we're weak in that particular discipline?
Well, the last medal that we won, I think, was Eric Bouillon, and that was I think in the 70s, might have been the 80s.
Wow.
Well, then we had Ruby Fox, who also medaled in it, and Pat Spurgeon. But that was, I'm pretty sure, back in the 80s, might have been the 90s, early 90s. I don't think we have the depth that the other countries have. And I don't think we're recruiting it as best as we can. Plus, let's face it, Brent, let's just call a spade a spade. Pistol is not, that's handguns. and handguns are under attack.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, for a kid to walk up to his parents and say, hey, I want to get a handgun and I want to learn how to shoot pistol.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like I want to learn how to play golf.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. I don't think our recruiting efforts for USA Shooting, I think, are a little hampered by the stigma that goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that's why we don't do well. It's not that we don't have good coaches. I think USA Shooting has excellent coaches. I just don't think we are recruiting the best that we possibly can.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the depth there. It's not as exciting as shotgun or even 25-meter 3-position rifle.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, if you watch the rapid fire, I mean, for me, that's a heart pounder.
Yeah.
You've got 4 seconds to get off 5 shots. That's like, Jerry Mikulek. So yeah, I mean, that's an exciting event. And it's a tiny little pistol. You don't have to carry, if the guys on rifle, they're pulling their equipment with little red wagons. Pistol is just a little box. So
yeah.
That's
little red wagons. Okay.
They are. That's how they used to pull, because they got their leathers, they got their gun, they got their ammunition. I mean, they got, especially if they're shooting 3-position, they got so much equipment.
Yeah.
And so they literally have to put it in wagons and drag.
So, okay, a technical question. When you're doing this, I know television can make anything happen. So are you physically side by side with your play-by-play, or you said in a sound booth? Are you in a little phone booth yourself, or how's that work? Okay,
we're in a booth. We used to be side by side. Okay, where we could actually look at each other, talk to, touch each other, kind of thing. And we're in a booth. And now, though, because of COVID, we're still in that same booth, but they put a partition between us.
Okay.
So, because we had to wear masks the whole time, except when we were calling the event.
Okay.
And when we were eating. But we're actually in the booth right there, and you'll see it. Sometimes I think, sometimes like on swimming, they'll show you the booth where the announcers are.
Okay.
And it's a sound booth. It's this, and we've got screens everywhere and headsets on, and we're watching the event.
So Shari, talk about maybe another moment that might not have made the headlines, but, was perhaps the most surprising or shocking, somebody that placed that nobody thought had a chance or something like that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. There's a new event in shotgun. It's called Mixed Team Trap. And it is where they take a man and a woman and they put them on a team. And as well as I do, shooting is a solitary sport.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a team event. It's not like baseball or soccer or football. Yeah. And what they do is you shoot with each other. So you're actually relying on the other person's score to move you forward. And our trap team has not been, they're not as strong as the skeet team, even though we did medal in trap, but it's just not as strong as skeet on an individual level, particularly for the men, because this is the first Olympics since 2008 that we actually sent men in the trap.
Really?
We've not done really well there. In the women's event, we had Corey Cogdill. She won 2 bronze and 2 consecutive Olympics kind of thing. So the women have done well. But anyway, so now we have this new event. It's called Mixed Trap Team. And I'm like, what are they doing here? And so I'm looking at it and I'm trying to find, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see how it goes. Well, it wound up being extraordinarily exciting. I was shocked at how exciting it was. But here's something even better. Is the Americans, Derek Mine and Madeline Bernal, but we call her Maddie, were made the final, and they were shooting. And I mean, it was exciting. It was. I will be the first to admit that no, I did not expect them to be there. And I got to make these predictions and say, I'm going to pick this person, this person, this person. They were not my picks.
Yeah.
And they fought for gold. It was so exciting.
Very
and
cool.
When it was all said and done, I was like, oh my God. And, I did a Rowdy Gaines thing. I think they probably edited that out.
I was going to say, was there ever a moment when you just jumped up and threw your headphones off and lost your mind?
No, but what I do, and I mean, it happens all the time in there, and they get a kick out of it. I have stood up and I've thrown my arms over my head, with this big victory and fist pumping, going, and we did it, and the producer's in my ear going, settle down,
calm down. Wow.
Well, there's a protocol on how announcers and color commentators are supposed to, what we're supposed to do and not do. And I've lost it. Rowdy Gaines loses it all the time. Okay. Then it just happened I think it was biathlon as well. And I mean, this announcer, it was great. I wish you need to pull this up on YouTube. Just type in biathlon and you'll see this. And the color commentator, and I knew the play-by-play guy on this, it was Steve Schlanger. And the color commentator all he's doing is screaming, yes, 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 because the guy's coming around skiing past everybody else. And Steve Schlanger's trying to get a word in edgewise. And when it was all said and done, we got this little memo and stuff that talked about, okay, there's some things that you do and you don't do. But sometimes you just get in the moment, Brad.
Yeah.
And you lose it because you're so excited.
Sure. Now, just to clarify that last story, that was the Winter Olympics, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was
when you said
Olympics.
ski. I thought
biathlon.
That is some impressive. That's an impressive athlete. If you can ski on grass with your regular snow skis, that's really putting some more effort in there.
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. That was that happened at the Winter Olympics. Yeah. I think it was the last Winter Olympics, and that is rifle shooting and cross country skiing. Yeah. Yep. So, and those guys are really athletes. Wow.
Oh yeah.
So anyway.
So how do these athletes? How does this work? I mean, is everybody working a day job and they're training after work, or how does an elite Olympic level competitor? How do they do that, and how do they get to train as much as they possibly can?
Surprisingly, and people always feel like, well, we go up against the rest of the world and the rest of the world has professional athletes. Actually, that's not the case. But more so to address that question here in the United States, these guys just have real lives. They have real jobs.
Yeah.
They're going to school. They work during the day. They train on weekends. They train at night. Unless of course they join the military, because you've got the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit, which is what happens to a lot of these athletes, because then it becomes their job within the Army to do that. And they have to maintain a certain percentage. It's like 95% or 97% in their score in order to stay in the unit, in the marksmanship unit. But most of the other athletes, regular athletes, I know that's what I did. I worked during the day. I went and shot on weekends. I reloaded during the week because I couldn't afford ammunition till I made my first team. And that's what these guys do. These young athletes and parents, there's a lot of sacrifice on parents who are driving these athletes to the ranges, paying for ammunition, paying for guns, paying for coaching. There's a lot of sacrifice. It's a tough life. It really is. You have to have a passion, but more importantly, you got to have that hunger. You got to have that burning in your belly. Yeah. That you want to win.
So once you've been named to one of the teams, do they receive any kind of help?
Yes. Once you're named, like they have the development team, like USA Shooting has the development team. And these are people that they've seen that have won some matches that they see, okay, there's some potential here. This could definitely be an Olympian. And so then you start getting some help. You get some ammunition, you get uniforms, you get sent to events that USA Shooting pays for. Mm-hmm. And then once you graduate from the development team to the actual U.S. shooting team, then you get a lot more help. You get more ammunition. You get guns, depending on which discipline you're in. But they send you to the events. They will pay for your travel, your hotel, your entry fee, and everything else. So I guess this is a good time to put in a plug for USA Shooting that says, hey guys, you know what? they are actually supporting the athletes. This is not a top-heavy organization. Trust me.
Yeah.
They have a couple of coaches for each discipline. They have a marketing director, a director of operations, and a CEO, and they may have one or two employees, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
So they're constantly out there doing fundraisers and trying to raise money to help the athletes. So if you have an opportunity to do that, support USA Shooting, because it really, truly does go to the athlete. And these kids, these athletes, they need it. They need help. Now, granted, USOC does give them some money, but not enough. It's not like you're, given free rein, because you're not. You're putting out a lot of your own money.
Sure. This is a question that may be above your pay grade, but I'm going to ask it. Do you think with the state of the world today, there's a very strong undercurrent of people that are hating guns, obviously? What is the future for Olympic shooting sports hold? Do you think things are okay, or do you think that's going to be under increasing pressure to go away?
That's a good question. And I think shooting is one of the oldest Olympic sports in the modern Olympics. It's one of the very first ones in there. Surprisingly, it is also one of the most participated in from a world standpoint. It has a very strong governing body, the ISSF, and they work very hard to keep the sport in to the Olympics. Because, see, the Olympics is about beds. It's about how many athletes can get into a city, on whether a city can sustain what it takes to host an Olympics. So when they bring in a new sport, another sport has to go. So this Olympics, we had in these summer games, there were some new events. There was rock climbing, which they called sport climbing, skateboarding, surfing, and a couple of other new sports. But a couple of other sports then had to go away. And the ISSF works diligently to keep shooting in the games. And I think we're good. I really do. I feel very strongly that we will be in the Olympics for quite some time. So we have 3 years now till the next Olympics. This has been a tough Olympics because of COVID, because of the protests. There's all kinds of things that are going on. But I think shooting is strong. It'll be there for a while.
Good.
I just want people to get back to what the Olympics are about and what the sport is about, and that is sport. You want to protest, you want to do all your other stuff, go write a blog somewhere.
Yeah. So, Shari, now that you've been out there doing all that, now you've got a better appreciation for our little video series, our fun and frivolity of what we call gun cranks.
Yeah, yes, I do, because the pre-production meetings that I had to sit through with the Olympics and NBC is just so extensive and not compared to what we did. And I have to share this with our listeners. When we used to not do pre-production meetings and for gun cranks, we would just get on Zoom and I'd be going, all right, guys, start talking. Here you go. and then you guys would just go. Yeah. And then we went off the air for a couple months, maybe a month or two, and then we reformatted. And I remember making the suggestion to you guys, and I said, hey, you know what? When we do the Olympics, we have pre-production meetings before every show. And keep in mind, this is like before air rifle, men's air rifle, or women's air rifle, pistol. We would have a pre-production meeting 2 hours before we'd go on air. And so I remember making that suggestion where I said to you guys, so why don't we just let's just start maybe a half hour early and we can have a pre-production meeting and maybe shockingly plan what we want to talk about or something like that. Do you remember that conversation? Oh,
yeah. And the looks you got.
Yes, I remember Roy's looking at me going, seriously? And I'm like, well, let's just try it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. It is. Yeah. And you're right. I was in pre-production meetings for, probably 2 months prior to I ever even got on the plane to go back east.
Yeah.
And I stay on top of the sport throughout those 3 or 4 years that, from one Olympic to the next. And it's a lot of work. But, now that I'm done and I'm over being tired and all the work and drama that happened, I'm going, God, it's just, I hate to leave these guys because I really want to, I want to support them and I want them to do well.
Yep. Well, very cool. And folks I'm sure there's clips of you floating around out there, NBC and some of their various platforms.
Yep. Yeah, it's easy. Just go to the NBCOlympics.com or go to TokyoOlympics.com and you can actually see some of the shooting events because they will re-air for you right there online. And just, support the shooting team. These guys worked hard to get where they are.
Yep.
And it's the pressure that they feel. And look at Simone Biles, what happened to her.
Yeah.
So just think of that. So, you know what? When you get a chance, support your shooting team.
Exactly. Great words to end this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. Shari, thanks for talking to us, and we'll be looking forward to hearing your descriptions in about 3 more years.
Well, thanks for having me, Brett. I appreciate it.
That was a lot of fun talking to Shari LeGate about the Olympics, and if you didn't catch her live, I'm sure she's still out there somewhere floating around the internet. And with that, we hope you're enjoying the Guns Magazine podcast. Guns Magazine was first in the business, and we're bringing you the most interesting chats in the gun world. If you've got any questions or comments about the show, please email me. That's editor@gunsmagazine.com. Make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast catcher, YouTube, and of course at gunsmagazine.com. And while you're online, don't forget to check out our great sister publications, American Handgunner Magazine at AmericanHandgunner.com and AmericanCop.com. We'd also appreciate it if you'd share a favorite episode or some kind words on your own social media. And don't forget to check out the presenting sponsor of the Guns Magazine podcast, 1791 Gunleather. Visit them at 1791gunleather.com. That's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. For the entire staff at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat. Now get out there and get shooting.